What's going on, everyone? So Jovan Buha gave us an update, according to JJ Redick, that no update exists for Christian Koloko at this time. That Christian Koloko, who is the two-way center that we've all been waiting on to see, is he going to get signed off? Didn't get that all preseason. And now we're at the beginning of the regular season, and there is still no update and still no word on what is going to happen with Christian Koloko. At this point, it's getting ridiculous at this point, right? Like, look, if the NBA doesn't want to sign off on him, because look, the blood clot thing, that's a serious matter. I get that. I fully support it. If the NBA looks at it and goes, hey, we don't want to take the risk, we don't want worst case scenario, right? Like, which is, again, it's not just something, he broke his toe or something, and it's like, no, this is something that you can not come back from. This is something where he can go on that basketball court, and that could be that, right? Like, so I get the reluctancy. I get the concerns. But my problem is that then make the decision one way or another. We've had team doctors. We've had NBA doctors. We've had Christian Koloko's personal doctors. All say he is fine and clear and he can play basketball. Yet the NBA has still refused to sign off on him. He's been working out. He's been ramping up. He's been doing all this stuff. He's done all the criteria for him to actually get onto the basketball court, except for getting the sign off on the basketball court. And he's incredibly limited on what he can do until he gets signed off. And that's the problem too, is that by the time they decide to sign off on him, it's probably going to be too late and there's no point in having him, right? Like, that in and of itself is a problem. If you're not comfortable signing off on Christian Koloko, then fine. Just say that so Christian Koloko can do whatever he has to do the rest of this season. So maybe that changes next season. So that way the Lakers can go and get a center or somebody back up that they need, or fill a two-way spot that they need. That doesn't mean the Lakers can't bring Koloko back on a two-way at some point, right? Like, let's say the NBA is like, hey, we're just not comfortable this season. We want to see him, be productive for a year. Tell you what, go play overseas or something like that for a year. Let's see how you look. Let's see how you do. Then fine, right? Let him go do that. Then when he's ready and he's ready to be signed off, he can just sign a new two-way with the Lakers. That's fine. Not a big deal. Hell, the Lakers, if Jackson Hayes and all that stuff leave, he might actually just get a roster spot next year, right? But the Lakers have a need, and the idea is that Koloko may or may not, but Koloko may be somebody that could fill some of that need, some of that void. Give us another shot-blocking center that gives us floor running, athleticism, is young, is a development guy. The idea of Christian Koloko makes a lot of sense for the Lakers, right? He's a project. He was a project before he missed the last year and a half. But he was a project that looked as if he was a guy that could make some form of impact, especially for a team that has a need at his position. We went and you end up looking at Christian Koloko, and it's like, in theory, in concept, right? He's a guy that not only can block shots, he can rebound, gives you 110% effort. He was already a big effort guy, getting after it and sacrificing his body and, chasing down loose balls and blocking shots and, actually showing perimeter defense. Like, he was looking like he could potentially be a stud at some point and was more likely than not going to be the center of the future for the Toronto Raptors. Right? Everything was shaping up for that until that happened. Well, now he's getting a second life, and you don't think that he's going to, not make the most of it? He might be better than he's ever was going to be now, because he's going to have that motivation to prove, the NBA and everyone wrong, and, that he's good. And I'm sure to an extent himself, right? Want to show and prove to himself that, like, hey, I can do this. Right? Like, so the idea of, like, his athleticism, his defensive versatility, his floor running, his rim pressure, right? Another shot blocker that can help and that you can slide alongside Anthony Davis, that can back up Anthony Davis, right? Jackson Hayes, he was great in that first game of the season for the Lakers. Right? He was a real bright spot for the Lakers in that game. But, his rim protection and whatnot, and just like, he's still very raw himself. Like, Koloko would be nice to kind of just have another guy that you could throw out there at times. Right? And look, Anthony Davis is probably going to get some nights off on occasion. And so you're going to need a guy like a Koloko that can come in, step in, play some decent minutes. Right? The beauty of a two-way is that you can play him 50 games. And then on top of that, like, you can evaluate him during that stretch, during that time, and see, like, okay, is he ready to kind of come in and, maybe we pull off some type of trade or something for, I don't know, let's say a Jeremy Grant, just use him as an example. And it's like, okay, well, we have a roster spot we need to fill. Let's bring in Koloko. Boom, there you go. Right? Or maybe you unload Jackson Hayes in a deal and boom, bring in Koloko and go get a Nick Richards or something like that. Now Koloko's your third center this year, but it's fine because he's still going to get minutes. He's still going to get opportunities. He's still going to get run, right? Like, but we don't even know what he's capable of doing. We don't even know what he can do because he can't get on the court in a way to display. And it's like, at what point, from the Lakers standpoint, do you just say like, unfortunately, we might have to go elsewhere? Which is unfair and unfortunate for Koloko. Now, look, you can make an argument, and a genuine one, of like, it doesn't really matter, just keep him, right? Keep him on the two-way, right? But it's like, like, for example, we waived Colin Castleton. I don't think that's like the end of the world. I like Castleton a lot. And, but he's still 6'11", 250. He's a guy that could, in a pinch, if need be, could come in and actually play some minutes if we need a big man, right? Where Koloko, like, we don't have that. We don't have the luxury of that. So it's like, it would be nice to have a guy in Koloko who's on a two-way that could actually play some minutes if need be in a pinch. Where if he can't, we don't have anyone else to go to. We're going to go to Armel Traore. I like Armel Traore a ton. One, he's not really a center, right? I mean, he can play center in spots, but also he's incredibly raw. Where Koloko, yes, he's incredibly raw, but at least he's proven. He's shown the ability to play and start and actually contribute at an NBA level, right? Like, Colin Castleton's a guy that we could have had be in there in a pinch for us if need be, but we just waived him for Quincy Lavari, which, again, I'm glad, right? And I said that he's the guy that's probably the odd man out. And I'm glad we kept Quincy Lavari because that dude looks like a stud. That guy looks like a guy that could help us immediately. And if we end up trading a Gabe Vincent or something like that at some point, he might actually get some real opportunity on this team. But, unless we do a trade, right? Like, if the Lakers end up pulling off a trade for like a Nick Richards or, a Walker Kessler or something like that, then there's not as much pressure. Then you're fine, right? Like, if the Lakers turn, I don't know, Jalen Hood-Schifino and Maxwell Lewis into Nick Richards, just example, right? Then now it's like, okay, fine. Like, just who cares? Even if Koloko doesn't get signed off this season, keep him on the two-way so that way you have control just in case. And then, you can kind of develop and you can kind of work with him where you can work with him and kind of, have him at least be able to see and understand and be a part of the team culture and stuff and, kind of have an idea of like what's expected of him going forward. That's fine. Problem is that if you don't, or if let's say you're not able to make a trade right now and it's close to trade deadline and you need a center, and it's like, well, we can't go to Koloko, so now what do we do? Right? We have no idea how long Christian Wood's going to be out, right? And it's like, so literally our only big men are Anthony Davis and Jackson Hayes, right? Like, Rui can play center in a pinch, but that's not, like, ideal. Same thing with LeBron, but that's not, like, ideal. Like, if you're playing the Warriors, sure, but if you're playing, like, any team with, like, a significant, sizable center, it's not ideal. And, so the Lakers, it kind of puts this pressure on the Lakers to, like, go get a center, right? Get somebody that can come in and play a role at the center spot, right? And, I still think you got Valanciunas. You really got to just get through till, like, middle of December 15th. And then you could, I think, easily go get a Valanciunas. But it'd be nice if like you had a Koloko that you can rely on to also take your time in finding that center, right? Like, if you're able to kind of weather the storm between now and say the trade deadline, right? And it's kind of like, well, let's see. What if a Walker Kessler goes from 2 firsts to a first? Or what if Nick Richards right now, who, is supposedly they want a first for, like, what if he's, 3 seconds, right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, we can go and make this trade, and still go get a Nick Richards, or still go get a Walker Kessler, right? Like, having the luxury of Christian Koloko and him being available not only gives us that safety net, but it also gives us a guy that can, play right now, gives us a piece for not only now, but the future, but also kind of takes pressure off of us, one, having to bring Christian Wood back, and 2, having to go rush to go trade for a center, right? Obviously, the Lakers need a center. I'm not saying the Lakers shouldn't, and if a deal for a center isn't on the table, even if Koloko gets signed off today, right? Like, you still need a center, right? But my point is that you don't have to go rush to go get that. It's not like, like if Nick Richards and Walker Kessler are right now 2 firsts, it's not worth trading for 2 firsts, but that might come down. So now you don't have to go rush to go do that. You can be a little patient. And also it'd be nice to just kind of start getting Koloko acclimated. It's going to take him some time. Again, the guy hasn't played in a year and a half. He might be able, because you're not asking him to play a huge major role, he might be able to come in and make an impact, in limited minutes, limited role. But it'd be nice to kind of allow him to take his time and get his legs under him and, kind of spend the next, month or 2 really kind of getting back in the NBA readiness. So then he can really start making an impact. And then we can kind of better evaluate him. And then he kind of also knows where he's at and how he's comfortably feeling and whatnot. Right? Like, my thing is, like, if there was you have all these experts, all these doctors from not just Koloko, where it's like, oh, well, maybe he paid them to say, no, like the Lakers have done it, NBA team doctors, right? Like, you have all these different experts all saying, like, no, he's fine, he's good, he can play. And yet there's still this reluctancy, which, again, I understand the reluctancy, but then, like, what does it take? Like, what do you want to see? What does he look for? Are you just never going to let Koloko, are you just never going to sign off on him because you think it's too much of a risk? Well, then let us know so Lakers aren't wasting time. It sucks for Koloko, but from a Lakers standpoint, like an organizational standpoint, it's like, okay, well, maybe we're bringing in, a Kyler Kelly, or something like that. Something, so at least we have that able body, or you're bringing on a Jamarian Sharp or something, right? Like, somebody that can come in and actually, like, potentially play a role if need be, right? Or, at least relate. Okay, well, we want to see him, do X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, then the Lakers can help and assist and get him ready to do X, Y, and Z. And then he can get signed off. Or, if it's like, hey, we want to see him, go play overseas for a season and then come back. And then we'll sign off on you if you're good, right? And it's like, okay, well, then Lakers can release him and be like, hey, just let you know, we'll let you go so you go play over here. Or, like, if you want to let him play in the G League or whatever, right? Like, communication is everything. But it's frustrating. I want to see Koloko. I want to see what he can give us. He was a guy that was looked at as a real piece on Toronto. Now Lakers got him. It was exciting when we signed him. No one's expecting him to be, a star for us or like, oh, he's the answer to all of our center problems. No, but he's a nice piece that can help now and be a development big for the future. That you can spend the next 2-3 years and play him in a limited role, but in 2-3 years may actually be able to be your starting center. Like, that's the idea. That's the goal. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Are you as frustrated as I am? How does this bother you? Does it frustrate you? Are you kind of like, we'll see how it plays out. It doesn't really matter. It's not really a need right now. It's not something of urgency right now. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me not. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.